real cases before a real judge.
Plaintiff Gerald Walraven and his daughter Amy say Amy is in the process of divorcing the defendant. And she claims the last straw was when he went out drinking with one of her friends and spent the night at her house. Gerald is suing his son-in-law for stolen money. Defendant Brian Milliger says he has known the woman in question for 17 years, and he's the one who introduced her to Amy. Brian denies owing Gerald for anything.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis presiding. You may now be seated.
Start with you.
Now, when Brian and I first met, I noticed he was loud and boisterous. And then he would make jokes at the expense of others, including my daughter next to me.
You're looking at the same guy. That's what I do for a living. And at home, watch my show. I make jokes on my own wife at her expense. And she can't say anything back until she gets her television show. But go ahead. So he's trying to get him a show, that's all. Go ahead.
He went far and out of his way to be the best. But the father knows best.
There you go.
If mother approves, of course. And right now, my wife and Brian are in the process of divorce.
His daughter and Brian.
Why?
So we've been together for 12 years. A lot of the issues centered around financials. One of the last straws kind of in our overall relationship was an instance where he had gone out drinking with one of my girlfriends, and neither of them had told me about it. And then he didn't come home until 8 o'clock in the morning.
How did you know he went out with her? They later told you that?
They later told me.
Tell me how you
Yes.
So he came home at 8 a.m. and then what happened from there?
I got the entire story the next morning from both of them, but that kind of put the first crack in the end of the relationship.
What was the story?
And he had actually the night before told me he was going to a friend's house, and I was staying home with the kids, so no harm, no foul. And I went to bed as usual, and that is when I woke up the next morning and saw him coming in at 8 a.m. And I believe he might have still been intoxicated, but I had asked what had actually happened, and he told me that he had gone to the bar with my friend and then went back to her house.
And the friend told you what?
The friend told me the same
thing? Well,
yes.
Did they play cards?
They
Had
said
read
that
the Bible?
It was just drinking and I guess waiting for an Uber most of the time.
Wow, it was a long Uber.
That was a very long.
And what's the status of you and your girlfriend?
We are actually co-workers also, so we were never as close. We actually didn't talk for about a year and a half, and we've just gotten back to.
So that was the only indiscretion in that way, but that's a biggie. That's a real biggie. I don't know how many people can get past that. You are my friend. You had my husband come over to your house. He lied as to where he was going. And then come to find out, he went and spent the night with you. Is there any other way I can characterize that, sir?
I mean, if you're asking for me to, rebuttal about what she's talking about, she's leaving out some key information. Okay. The simple fact that I've known the girl for 17 years and I introduced them. She was my neighbor. You know, we were going to go out to my friend's house together, her and I, and he was not able to go. So the two of us ended up going. She got intoxicated and she couldn't drive her car home. I wasn't as intoxicated as she was. So I drove her car home to her house for her and tried to get an Uber home. And being the late hour, there wasn't any Ubers that would come to pick us up. So I eventually had to call an old school taxi service. And that gentleman came, you know, an hour and a half later and finally picked me up and brought me home.
Okay. You all had come home from after hour joint earlier.
Yes. Well, we had gone to her house from the bar.
From the after hour joint. No, it had to be
Yes.
after hour joint. Bars close at 2.
Well, yeah. We went back to her house at 2. And then, you know, we had.
And you couldn't get a ride for 6 hours. No
honestly,
Uber, no cab, nothing in 6 hours.
Walk.
And you wonder why you're getting divorced? You're not curious about why you're getting divorced, are you? Why she would divorce you with that story, are you?
Well, there's many underlying issues besides that, Your Honor. I'll tell you that.
I got that, but you stayed the night with my girlfriend. In my case, you spend the night with my buddy to 8 a.m. after the club. You tell me it's because you can't get a ride in 6 hours, and we're going straight to the divorce judge.
Take an Uber to the divorce judge.
I can
Take an
understand
Uber
that,
to the divorce. I'm gonna take a Uber. We're gonna take the Uber to the divorce judge. When you all got married, what were you all settled in? Because you said 12 years you had trouble with your finances. So when you got married, what were were you all stable financially?
Separately, yes. After we got married, nothing really changed financially. My finances stayed mine, his. So everything was always separate. One example of some of our financial troubles was a time that I had taken some change from a change jar in the kitchen, and he got infuriated and called me a thief and actually called my dad. And
those are the money problems you're talking about, ma'am. We had plenty of money. We were stable. Yeah, that wasn't no problem. It's that piggy bank.
Yes.
What else other than taking money out of the piggy bank did you all argue about regarding finances?
Insurance for the children.
Okay.
I was always the insurance holder, and I think in all of the years together, I received a portion of insurance for the kids for 1 year. And as far as I'm aware,
so you're saying you paid a policy that he didn't pay toward, and it hurt your finances more than it would otherwise have if your husband, the father of the children, had given more of his share toward the total cost?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, that was something to argue about. Did you say something to him about that in particular? Because now you're talking about the children. And what would he say?
Yes. Well, one of the reasons he gave me was where we lived was so far away from his work, and he had to pay tolls to get to his work. So.
Okay. All right. I don't know how to advise. I really don't know how to advise married couples and others on how to join their money together upon marriage. But back in the day, where I'm from, in Detroit, you come home, the man give his check to his wife. She give him $100. He go out drinking or hanging out or playing cards Friday and Saturday, and the rest of the money he get issued his money the rest of the week. Hey, what you need? $20. $20, honey. Forget you don't need no $20. Yeah.
That's how my parents are exactly.
Yeah, that's what I go through. I gotta turn my check over to them. I swear I do. I tell my wife I gotta pay Stacy for something he didn't do.
That's great.
I say, write the check to Stacy. He get it again. I swear I gotta steal my own money. That's the only reason I get any money. I tell my wife to go get me some money from the bank. I went to New York 3 days. I'm doing community work. It's not like I'm going to party. I did 3 community events. I'm serving the community. New York, I'll say it again. 3 days. I went away. The day before I leave, I said, could you stop and give me some money? Because you're not going to believe this. I don't have the card where I can just get access to cash. I said, well, would you give me some money? I'm going to New York. Stop by the bank, or if you're rolling around today, stop by the bank and bring me some money. All right, here you go. Toss the envelope. It's $500. I'm going to New York. That's what I have to go through.
That's great.
So you should have sent him through the same thing every other man has to go through. Having turned that check over to you, and you issue it out. So that he don't go drinking the family money away, gambling the family money away, whatever, strip clubbing the family money away, whatever else us men do, betting on sports, whatever we do with money irresponsibly. You all are typically the wives, and women are typically more responsible in maintaining their household finances than men. And I've never had a problem with that, quite frankly. 12 years and you all still kept your finances separate. You pay the light bill, you pay for the Kleenex, you pay for the repair of the car, you pay for, and you'll say, okay, I paid for the cigarettes last week, or I paid for the beer. Well, I didn't drink any of the beer, and I didn't smoke any of the cigarettes. If it comes out of the one account, nobody can do all that. That's my advice.
That's exactly.
Yeah,
that's exactly how it went.
Yeah, okay. That's exactly how it went.
Yes.
What happened here? You call it stolen money. What happened?
Brian Milliger was put on our policy in 2017. And in 2017, we made a claim for damage on his truck. A check was issued to myself and my wife, and the repairs were never made. The policy we assumed was any unused funds goes back to the policy holder.
We assumed that the check that was issued in 2017 just went back to Allstate, since it was never used.
Who was the policy holder at that time?
Myself and my wife.
And who was paying the policy?
I was.
Okay, he didn't pay the policy?
25% of the time.
What?
He gave the money to you or directly to the insurance company when he did pay?
It went through me. He paid me.
He'd pay you. All right, and now it's sporadic. You give me your side.
If I may, Your Honor, can I address some of the things that Mrs. Walraven said about the finances between her and I?
Yes.
Okay, well, first off, you can clearly tell that a lot of it is petty. And if I had signed my checks over to her, we would have been living out of a cardboard box, because Amy is the type of person where when you come home from work, there's 20 Amazon packages waiting.
My wife
okay, I only get 5 waiting on my wife, but go ahead.
So giving her the money, she constantly had to borrow money from her parents to cover her side of bills. And going back to the bills, I gave Amy the insurance money every single month, $60. And I signed on with Mr. Walraven's policy back in 2016, not 2017. The check and the date in question is actually 2017, because that's when the hailstorm was. So I needed insurance to drive my new car off the lot because I was in an accident in 2016, and they were willing to put me on their insurance policy and keep me on there.
And so you were to pay? And you were to pay?
Yes.
Your
I paid
share?
him $60 a month.
Okay.
I gave Amy the money every month. And then when we separated, I started giving Mr. Walraven the money directly, except in February of last year, 2020, Amy, and a guy got into an argument, and she told me that her parents were kicking me off of the insurance policy. Well, in October of 2020, the insurance company called me and said that Mr. Walraven was wanting to remove me from his policy, and that they don't do that without you having insurance to fall back on. Well, I said, let me call Mr. Walraven and find out what's going on. And unbeknownst to me, I was still on their insurance from February until October. And I agreed to help Mr. Walraven fix his chimney because it was falling apart in lieu of the money. And,
In lieu of what money? The monthly payments?
Yes.
How many months?
For 8 months, yes. For $480, I helped him fix his chimney, basically.
All right.
And I was like,
And that was for a
just had
small
a stroke.
portion of the 4 years he was on our policy.
Yes, the 4 or 5 years. There was actually a period of time.
Let him finish. Go ahead.
And so in October, or I believe it was November, that I helped them fix the chimney. And for them to sit there and say that I did not give them the insurance money is a bald-faced lie.
Okay. And ma'am, you're saying he never gave any money. He's saying about the deduction for the chimney repair as a substitution for the monthly payment from February to October. How do you all respond?
Yes, Your Honor. We're definitely not saying that he never paid. We're estimating in the 5 years he was on the policy, it was about 25%.
Very sporadic.
Yeah.
That's a
And
lot.
the chimney repair for the 8 months that he did not pay was immediately after we had separated.
What month was the claim submitted?
April of 2017.
Yes.
April of 17. When is the last time he had made a payment?
We honestly couldn't say for sure. We don't have any records or
Because he always paid in cash.
statements.
Pay you in cash, sir?
Or me.
Okay. You paid
When he did pay, it was in cash.
Okay, and you can't remember in April 17th, as you say, whether he had paid that month.
In April of 2017?
Yes.
If I may, Your Honor.
Yes, you may, because,
650.
ma'am, that's enough. Let me allow him, because you all couldn't address it.
You can obviously tell that they have no idea what they're speaking
In this
about.
case, in this part.
So in April of 2017, there was a really bad hailstorm. And if you refer to page 2 of the evidence that I provided you, it claims that the check should be issued to the vehicle's title owner and to the lien company. And his insurance company made the check out to him and to his wife and to my title company. Now, my title company would not authorize the check because Mr. Walraven is not the signer, nor is he the co-signer to the title of my truck. So the damages were never fixed. I paid my truck off back in 2020 of May, and I asked the insurance company to reissue the check or reissue the payment. So this way, I could get the damages fixed on my truck. And they reissued it and they deposited it directly into my account, unbeknownst to me. Well, on the April 17th, I believe it was, of 2021, Mr. Walraven calls me, threatening me, saying I'm committing insurance fraud, that the money is rightfully his, and that it shouldn't be mine, and he's going to call the police and have me arrested. And I paid them the money every single month, regardless of what they're saying. But also, if you look at page 5 of the evidence, you can see that it clearly states that insurance money does not have to be spent to fix your truck.
All right, this is the law. I don't need to touch me the law.
And then also, hold on one second for me, please. I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir.
No problem.
But if you look at page 4, it also clearly states that when it comes time for a payoff through insurance, the money goes to the title holder, not to the policy holder, because it's trying to prevent fraud, which is exactly what the Walravens are trying to do by getting money for something that doesn't belong to them.
He suffered the loss. You all didn't suffer any loss. Did you have to come out your pocket with anything? The $3,000 you suing for, is that something you came out your pocket with?
No, Your Honor. If you actually
What made you think the money is yours? And the man, it was his car.
He's not using it for his car.
He didn't use any of those monies for the actual repair.
All right. So if he had his buddy repair it and he kept the difference, well, how much would you want?
Your Honor, also another issue that we had encountered with this whole ordeal was that the check itself was made out to Gerald and Lisa Walraven.
That's why y'all didn't want to give it up.
The insurance policies, I guess, every claim payment goes to the policy holders, and it's their responsibility to sign the funds over to where
to the person who suffered the loss. To the person who suffered the loss. Him.
Correct.
That was his money. Your claim is dismissed. That was his money. I'm glad you got it because you're about to get beat out of 3. Have a good day.
Thank you.
We spoke the case as we saw it, and it didn't go our way, and that's fine.
I think it was fair, and I mean, I bear no ill will towards the Walravens. I mean, you know, greed is a terrible thing.
Plaintiff Felicia Hollier says the defendant is her daughter, and she has been defiant since the age of 2. Felicia is suing her daughter today for breach of contract, pawn fees, and emotional distress. Defendant Dejanay Hollier says she is the oldest of her siblings, and as a result, she admits she was disruptive growing up. She's countersuing her mother for emotional distress.
Start with you, ma'am.
I want to start by saying I watch you all the time. I'm one of your biggest fans, and I know that you do great justice, and that's the reason why I brought my case to you.
All right.
So anyway, this is my, I'm a single mom of 4, and Dejanay is my eldest child, and she's my problem child too. She's defiant, very mouthy.
Since what age?
Oh, since 2 years old.
Okay. Starting at age 6, what type of defiance did she start showing?
Being disruptive in school, just not.
And she stayed that way? She stayed that way?
Yes,
okay.
Over the years she's gotten worse.
Okay. How many times did you take her to counseling when she was a child? Up until she became an adult and could do what she wanted to do in school or what have you, to check her out, to see if there was some counseling or treatment that she needed. How many times did you try that?
Well, once when she was a teenager, we went to counseling, but other than that, I've tried throughout the system.
Why'd you only go one time?
Because the system just wouldn't let me do it.
What system are you referring to?
The legal system. Either she had to be abused, neglected, or committed some kind of crime.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. Every child that gets counseling, the state doesn't require they be abused first, ma'am. You should have gotten your child counseling, because when you call children bad, they will be bad. They will live up to the reputation that mama has given me. And mama gave me that reputation as of age 2. And she only took me to counseling one time. All right, and why don't you give me some background on yourself?
Well, I can start by saying I do love my mom. And yes, I probably may have been disruptive growing up. I am the oldest, so a lot of things have fallen on me. I think a lot of things that will make me come.
Were you kicked out of school often?
No, I was never kicked out of school, never expelled. I got into fights a couple times where I was suspended, but never any major.
How many times suspended?
A few times.
Okay.
Not many.
What grade did your suspensions start?
Middle school.
Okay, what I'm trying to get to, I'm trying to see how often you were in trouble during your middle and high school years.
In my high school years, I was never suspended in my high school years. All my fighting and everything happened in middle school. So when I think back,
how often did you fight?
Well, I used to get bullied a lot in school, so it wasn't that I was out trying to pick fights, but a lot of times, like people, they see me and they want to fight me, so I end up fighting basically to defend myself.
Okay, how many times were you defending yourself? How often were you defending yourself fighting?
Sometimes it can happen a couple times that school year, or.
Okay, I'm trying to determine, this is the type of things the psychologist would ask, ma'am, so that they can kind of determine whether it's something environmental or whether it's something that is chemical. And when a psychologist hears what's going on, then that psychologist can say, okay, this is how we're going to treat this, Mom. Mom, bring her in every week or every 2 weeks, and this is the plan. We're going to handle it like this. We're going to do that. And when you come back 2 weeks later, how did it go, Mom and daughter? It went like this. It went like that. Or that'll go on for a while. Then the psychologist will say, okay, based on what I'm hearing, you need to go see a psychiatrist because it's beyond just your environment. So that's the type of things that should have happened. Most people don't know. Most people don't know, and I understand that. My mother should have taken, I don't want to put it on you and something my mother should have done, but they weren't doing much of that in the 70s. My mother should have taken me to counseling about the 6th grade. No, probably about 6 years old. I was told that I was bad from day one, as long as I can remember. On the other hand, I was told that I was smart. Oh, he's bad. He's so smart, but he's bad. And I came to believe that. I always thought I was smarter than everybody because that's all I used to hear. I always thought I was bad. So in class, I would be the first one to raise my hand, even though I get it wrong sometimes. I'm like, I'm smarter than everybody. Mama told me I'm smart. All her friends say I'm smart. So I'm smart. When they ask a question, I'm smart, so I should know the answer. So that's how I was in school. And I was bad. My mama say I'm bad, so I got to be bad. My mama's friends say I'm bad, so I think I'm bad. I'm a bad kid. So instead, she should have taken me to counseling, and the counselor would have explained just what I explained, and the counselor would have said, well, he needs to go to a psychiatrist because the things he exhibits sound like attention deficit. And so when the psychiatrist tells you what you should do for the attention deficit he has, then we can resume based on what that psychiatrist says. Psychiatrist might say, give him some medicine. The psychiatrist might say, well, his attention deficit isn't bad enough to give him medicine. So you just take him to counseling every 2 weeks. Here's some skills, coping skills, and things that you give him at home to keep him busy. Tell the teachers to keep him busy by doing this and that. And then when he grows and grows, he will learn to manage it. And when he's an adult, he can multitask 3 things at a time because his mind has been trained that way. You got me? And I didn't learn that until I was an adult, that, hey, one of the benefits, one of the gifts of attention deficit is that you can manage several things in your mind, or several things are going on in your mind. And when you learn how to control it, you use it as your benefit. You know, I'm thinking about the stuff Doyle just told me back there. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to keep dealing with him. And then I'm thinking about what you're saying. I'm thinking about what happened in her life. Thinking about all of that. So it allowed me, it was a gift for me when I learned to manage it. I'm telling these folks, and I'm telling you, but a lot of times when I go back and forth with people, it's because I want others to learn. And you can't just tell me anything and I'm just gonna take it. Because I'm trying to give a lesson to other people that if your child is exhibiting abnormal behavior on a frequent basis, take that child to counseling and know your child does not have to be abused or neglected in order to go to counseling. So don't overlook it because you might sometimes nip it in the bud and not be here with Judge Mathis. The breach of contract is for what, ma'am?
I think it was 2017. I had co-signed for her a 2016 Hyundai Veloster, and the stipulations on me co-signing for her was to not let it get repossessed because it was going to go on my credit. And 2 years into having a car, for whatever reason, she wasn't keeping up with her car notes, and eventually it ended up getting repossessed in 2019. And then it was auctioned off, and in September of 2020, I received a letter offering a settlement arrangement, and the amount at that time was over $4,000, but the settlement arrangement would have been like less than the 4,000. So we went on and agreed with that. I had her to call and accept that arrangement. And starting in October, that's when it was supposed to start the $100 a month of payment. So I end up paying it in full because she wasn't paying it, and I didn't want it on my credit as a repossessed. So I wind up paying it an amount of $698, and you will see that on page 2 of my evidence.
I heard of many people who co-sign and end up on thousands. So she didn't do you too bad. All right.
That's why I went on and jumped on that settlement, because if we didn't, pay it on time, it was going to go back to the $4,000.
Yeah.
$652, and I couldn't afford that. So,
yeah, I need to go to that finance company and not pay. All right, that's a good deal. Give me some background on what happened here with your mother's car and the difference, and why shouldn't you pay for the car that your mother co-signed for?
Okay, so upon moving out to Arizona, I had another car, which is a Dodge Caliber. I had that when I moved out there, and the whole situation that I ended up with the car, I was supposed to get it small, the car, but my engine light was on, so I was not looking for another car. I was almost done paying off what I had. And I wanted to go by the dealership just to see how much it would be, just to get an idea. Because at the time I wasn't working, and I was still like trying to get my unemployment and look for another job. So I knew I could not afford more than what I was already paying for the car I had originally. And we went to a dealership, and of course their job is to sell us. And they basically gave a deal that seemed like it was like a deal that it didn't want to pass up. So knowing that I did not have a job at the time, and knowing that it probably would have been harder to pay something that's going to cost way more on a newer car. It was 2017, so the car was 2016. So with the insurance and the car payments, and then you got to put gas in, and then you got to keep it up with no job, it was going to be harder than what I was already paying for my original car. But I ended up trading that one in the order, and the only reason I was able to do that, they told me I could not do that on my own because I wasn't working, and so that's when they tried to get my mom to co-sign for me. That was only how I was going to get the car. So at first she didn't want to do it, but they gave her an offer that she didn't want to refuse. So she ended up co-signing for me with this car, and that's how I ended up trading my old one for this new one. And I was able to get a job, and I used to drive trucks, so I was able to keep it up for a while. But when I ended up leaving that job, at the time it was hard for me to get another job because I got into a truck accident. So it kind of messed me up, and I wasn't able to keep up my payments.
Okay,
so
why don't you think you should pay her the amount that you put her in a jam for?
I believe that, I was going to pay it regardless.
Okay, so you believe you owe? Do you believe you owe?
Yeah, I do. I do.
That's what we need to know, whether you believe you owe. What are the pawn fees for you're suing her for, and then emotional distress? How does she owe you for pawn shop fees?
Well, she had pawned my laptop and the twins' PSP. It wasn't her first time pawning my laptop, but this was the third time, and I was really upset. And each time, both times, she would get it out because I would tell her to get it out. And then the third time that she pawned it, I had no clue that it was even missing. So I had took my money and I went to the pawn shop to get it out, you know, with her and stuff, and to get out my laptop and the kids' PSP. So that's what she owed me for, $280 for that. And emotional distress happened March 16th of 2020. I asked all of my kids to clean up due to COVID and sterilize real good. And she didn't want to clean up. And so eventually that led into us fighting.
Okay, who threw the first punch?
Well, I threw a McDonald's.
Let's move on over here. Do you want to sue her for throwing McDonald's at you? Is that your emotional distress? You shouldn't even mention that. And you the one threw something first.
Yes.
$500. It didn't hit you.
Oh, yes.
Or it did hit you. That's how the fight started. $500 for the McDonald's assault. And with regard to the pawn fees, you owe. And the breach of contract for the car, you also owe. I'm going to dismiss your emotional distress, ma'am. You're the one throwing stuff. Whatever the problem was, you should never resort to violence. You resorted to violence first. Throwing something. $978 for you, ma'am. $500 for you. And what I advise you, young lady, you're an adult now, get your arms around your issues. I don't know if they're still bothering you. What I did, once I became an adult, I had to figure out what the devil was wrong with me. Because I'm thinking of three things at one time, getting frustrated easily. Frustration leads to anger. Suddenly I start reading up and okay, I see. I got attention deficit and it fit me right on the nose. Well, by that time, I had learned to manage my situation.
Yeah.
Some folks say I still haven't all the way, and I haven't. I get frustrated, and that angers me a little. Frustration when you have attention deficit, that's the whole thing. You're fast, you want everything fast. Y'all see me right here. Everything fast, sometimes you're going to see me like that. So there you go. Get your arms around it and get you a way to handle it, all right? Judgment for the plaintiff and yours, all right.
Hopefully we'll be able to move past all of this and work on our